Is the world entering the new arms race? This looks like a clickbait to draw attention in YouTube, to draw simply clicks on the YouTube content, but it is not. This is the irony that this is not a clickbait content. This is a very serious conversation we are having because of the American president announcement that they are going to match China and Russia in nuclear testing. So the world's sole superpower as of now, United States of America and its president Donald J. Trump, the Orange Man, he is saying that he's going to resume the nuclear testing. Obviously, that has caused geopolitical earthquake across major capitals around the world, including in Washington, because as per the reports, American officials also were very surprised with what the American president has said. So that is why we are going to discuss this today and the implications of it, the evolution of the entire nuclear weapon programs and Indian policy, which is obviously important for us, keeping in mind its relevance for UPSC Civil Services Examination. Welcome to SRIRAM IAS YT channel. My name is सौरभ और आज हम बात करने वाले हैं न्यूक्लियर आर्म्स रेस के ऊपर, जिसकी शुरुआत Trump is saying that Russians and Chinese have done. So we will be discussing obviously this issue in detail, because just look at the major newspapers that BBC is reporting, the South China Morning Post is reporting. The India Today obviously has covered it that behind Trump's move to restart nuclear test, ending a 33-year halt. Obviously, the provocation came from recently announced Russian test of a massive nuclear arsenal named Poseidon, which can cause radioactive tsunamis. It was a torpedo which is nuclear powered, nuclear armed, और पूरे पैसिफिक ओशन को कवर करके अमेरिकन वेस्टर्न कोस्ट के पास, ईस्टर्न कोस्ट के पास जाके वो डेटोनेट हो सकता है और रेडियो एक्टिव सुनामीज जनरेट हो सकती है. But Trump being Trump, he has announced that he is going to resume the nuclear testing. So what is nuclear testing? Nuclear testing is nothing but, if you look into the explosive nuclear test, it is the intentional detonation of nuclear weapon leading to an uncontrolled, highly destructive release of energy produced by either fission or fusion reaction. So, great scientist Oppenheimer, who was very famous for Manhattan program when they have developed during the World War II, when they have developed the nuclear weapons, nuclear energy का इस्तेमाल करके nuclear weapon device उन्होंने create किया, जिसको हिरोशिमा और नागासाकी में अमेरिकन्स ने इस्तेमाल भी किया, killing lakhs of people. Now, again, the possibility of that situation is still there, because nuclear testing is what at the very base of it. Nuclear testing क्या होती है? वेपन की टेस्टिंग. जब आर्मीज किसी भी वेपन को अपने आर्सेनल में इंडक्ट करती हैं, सो दे डू टेस्ट दोज वेपन्स continuously to establish the yield of the weapon, the behavior of the weapon, the effect of the weapon, so that जब जरूरत पड़े उस वेपन का इस्तेमाल हो तो जो इंटेंडेड कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस उसके स्ट्रेटेजिक सर्कल्स में एज्यूम किए गए थे, वो वेपन ड्यूटीफुली उसको सर्व करे, अचीव करे. The purpose behind nuclear weapons is simply to cause massive destruction, massive destruction at a huge scale. Hiroshima and Nagasaki killed lakhs of people within seconds, but right now, what we have in the name of nuclear weapons, the thermonuclear device, 1 million ton TNT रेंज तक के वेपन्स दुनिया की न्यूक्लियर पावर्स के पास अवेलेबल हैं. ऑन द कंपैरिजन साइड, जो लिटिल बॉय जिसका इस्तेमाल किया गया था हिरोशिमा के अंदर, द बॉम्ब्स नेम वाज लिटिल बॉय, उसका यील्ड वाज 15 to 20 kilotons. So these weapons, these harbinger of deaths, destruction, they can kill crores of people at one go, because these are the era of massive cities, massive industrial zones. तो ये जो weapons हैं, with one single strike they can simply level off the entire metropolitan areas, metropolitan cities. तो जो न्यूक्लियर टेस्टिंग है, दिस हैज बीन कंटिन्यूसली बीइंग डन सिंस ऑपरेशन मैनहट्टन। मैनहट्टन में जो प्रोजेक्ट था उसके बाद से ही टेस्टिंग रिज्यूम होती है। पहले अमेरिका ने टेस्टिंग की, उसके बाद सोवियत यूनियन ने टेस्टिंग की, फ्रांस ने टेस्टिंग की, यूके ने टेस्टिंग की, चाइना ऑल्सो टेस्टेड, इंडिया ऑल्सो टेस्टेड, पाकिस्तान, नॉर्थ कोरिया and Israel, we don't know yet whether they have tested or not, but definitely they have the nuclear weapons. These countries have tested these weapons everywhere, under the surface also, अंडरग्राउंड टेस्टिंग हुई है, एटमॉस्फेरिक टेस्ट हुए हैं, हवा में इनको फोड़ के बॉम्ब को एक्सप्लोड करके मेजरमेंट्स लिए गए हैं, अंडर वाटर ऑल्सो विद इन इनसाइड द ओशंस इनको टेस्ट किया गया. सो एवरी पॉसिबिलिटी, एवरी कंडीशंस these armies, these policymakers could have envisioned, they have gone for the testing. Number of tests, if you see United States of America, they have totally, if you see atmospheric test only, they have done 215 total test 1030. First test was in 1945, Manhattan Project. The last test was in 1992. The Russians also have tested 1949, total tests 715. The UK 45, French 2010, China 45, and we Indians only number of tests, atmospheric test 3. अगर देखें atmospheric 0, total number of tests is 3. Pokhran 1 and Pokhran 2. Pakistanis 2 and North Korea 6 tests they have conducted. As I said, we do not know about the Israelis data. तो इतनी massive testing के बाद भी the Americans are concerned that they have to resume the testing. Obviously, because of the great power competition and the Cold War 2.0, they are going to be indulging in with China and Russia combined. So that obviously raises serious questions. The serious questions that world community, the international community should pay attention to. However, the Americans will say, because of the geopolitical tensions, we have to make sure that our weapons are ready, they are credible, because deterrence जब तक credible ना हो वो deterrence नहीं मानी जाती. और satellite imagery 2021 से ये कह रही है बात. There are credible reports that the Chinese and the Russians are preparing for the test. Americans are also preparing their test sites for the test. As we are concerned, as long as we are concerned, we don't know yet, because public media में इस बारे में कोई भी जानकारी available nahi hai, that whether India has also prepared the test sites or not. So in case, if you see, the idea that these geopolitical tensions eventually will result in a massive war, and next world war will be fought with nuclear weapons, there is no doubt about it. The only thing that is holding the world together is the existence of nuclear weapons, क्योंकि सारी कंट्रीज को मालूम है कि न्यूक्लियर वेपन्स के इस्तेमाल से म्यूचुअली अशोर्ड डिस्ट्रक्शन होगा. अगर अमेरिका रशिया के ऊपर यूज करेगा, चाइना के ऊपर यूज करेगा, तो चाइनीज एंड रशियंस विल आल्सो रिटेलिएट एंड द वर्ल्ड विल बी bereft of life, because of which न्यूक्लियर विंटर भी आने की पॉसिबिलिटी है. लेकिन जो आइडिया है जियोपॉलिटिकल टेंशंस का, which captured perfectly in this book, the Graham Allison's books, The Destined for War, Can America and China Escape the Thucydides Trap? So ये जो एक आइडिया है कि भाई, as the rising power will compete for the same space in the geopolitical chessboard, conflict is inevitable. So the Chinese obviously are rising. Russians are also in a way are reviving their great power status after the collapse of Soviet Union. It looked like that Russians are weak, but they are shedding that idea or the notion of the weakness. Indians are also rising, though that has rattled the Americans. पर इसके जो consequences हैं बहुत नेगेटिव होंगे. अगर न्यूक्लियर टेस्टिंग होती है, basically it will raise the perceived importance of nuclear weapons to security. Who can stop Iranians or Libyans or Saudi Arabians or Indonesians from developing their own weapons and testing their own weapons? It increases the risk of conflict between the countries which have the nuclear weapons. The nuclear weapon states allow countries to develop new types of weapons, nuclear mines, and variety of weapon yield based weapons, bombs they can developed. So there will be a free pass for all the countries. Nuclear testing, basically it undermines the international rule-based regimes like Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty (NPT) of 1967. It will, in a way, violate CTBT, Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty of 1997. However, CTBT never came into existence because of the reservation on part of the nuclear weapon states into signing it. तो CTBT को साइन इंडिया ने भी नहीं किया है, एनपीटी को भी इंडिया ने कभी साइन नहीं किया है, by claiming that both are discriminatory and a moral injustice also. The more you will test, atmospheric test, underwater test, more radiation will follow. The idea of clean environment, for which many people and groups, environmental groups, are fighting around the world, it will be futile exercise, because बहुत massive radioactive जो रेडिएशन है उसके फैलने का खतरा होगा अगर टेस्टिंग की जाती है इन कंट्रीज के माध्यम से, एंड ऑल ऑफ देम आर सिंपली वेटिंग फॉर एनी वन कंट्री टू स्टार्ट. जैसे ही ये बांध, ये डैम टूटेगा, सो व्हाट लाइज बिहाइंड द डैम इज नथिंग बट डेथ एंड destruction. That idea should, that's why, is very, very important. India, on the other hand, if we talk about Indian policy, obviously our policymakers must have anticipated this. It is going to be there. Nuclear testing is going to be revived very soon, because we are now entering the uncharted waters. We are finally, if you see, if you compare it with an event or epoch in world history, so we can compare this decade with the 1920s and 1930s of the previous century, when the tensions were building up. And this is visible also. This is visible if you see the 1920s and early 30s, World War II के पहले का era, और अभी if you see the 2020s, this era, if you see, there are so many similarities between these two eras. There are many similarities for which we have to pay attention to. Like the global institutions have collapsed or collapsing. There, after the First World War, you had League of Nations. Right now, you have UN. Both are degrading on their own. Militarism is rising. Americans have renamed their Department of Defense as Department of War. Nationalism is rising everywhere, be it China, be it India, be it Turkey, be it Iran. And if you see closely, the defense budgets are also rising. Within a span of this decade, between 2015 to 2025, as per the SRIRAM report of 2024, the total budget, defense budget of the entire world has risen by more than 37%. So right now the defense budget is roughly around 2.7 trillion USD. If we spend that much amount on people's development, poverty can be eradicated in a single year. But ऐसा नहीं हो पा रहा है क्योंकि 2.7 ट्रिलियन डॉलर्स खर्च किए जा रहे हैं डिफेंस के ऊपर, जिसमें से लगभग $1 ट्रिलियन सिर्फ अमेरिका खर्च कर रहा है. 80% जो बजट है 2.7 का, वो अमेरिका और चाइना खर्च कर रहे हैं. तो मिलिटरिज्म और नेशनलिज्म आर बैक. इकोनॉमिक conflict is rising around the world. Territorial disputes are coming into fore. So all in all, you see the chaos and the uncertainty is there. And that is why this era will be very, very difficult to handle for the countries. और इसीलिए इंडिया ने 1998 के अंदर पोखरण 2 टेस्ट किए ताकि इंडियन न्यूक्लियर वेपन्स की क्रेडिबिलिटी को इस्टेब्लिश किया जा सके. Eventually and ultimately, nuclear weapons are the ultimate guarantor of national sovereignty and security. We have two adversaries who are sitting on our borders, with whom we have territorial disputes, the Chinese and the Pakistanis, and both are allies with each other. We have disputes with both of them. Plus, now Americans are also coercing us. 50% tariff लगा रहे हैं. बांग्लादेश के अंदर उन्होंने कू करवाया लास्ट ईयर. पूरे नेबरहुड में इंडिया को अंडरमाइन कर रहे हैं. So in a way, they are also behaving in a very irrational way. So India is also maybe forced to resume the testing, and that will be a good thing for India as well. Why? Because of the 4 great powers right now. 4 great powers of the world right now by comprehensive national power metrics. The first is obviously United States of America, second is China, third in that list would be Russia, and fourth would be India. So India is the only country which has not tested the weapons extensively. So it is also the weakest power, the great power among four. India is the weakest. So we have to resume the testing. And by the way, the Pokhran 2 टेस्ट जो हुए थे उसमें जो थर्मोन्यूक्लियर डिवाइस था जिसका 200 किलोटन का ईल्ड था, उसमें डिस्प्यूट था कि वो वेपन सक्सेसफुल था या नहीं था. Dr. Chidambaram, who was involved with the program, he has said that it was a dud. बाद में उन्होंने कहा it was a dud. इसकी जो yield है वो 200 किलोटन नहीं आई थी. तो we have to make sure that our thermonuclear device, the weapons, they are credible in nature, and our adversaries like Chinese will accept the credibility. Because if they think it's not credible, तो वो न्यूक्लियर वेपन्स इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं अगेंस्ट इंडिया. एंड नो डेमोक्रेटिक गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया शुड अलाउ दिस. जब हमारे पास नो फर्स्ट यूज की पॉलिसी है तब इंडिया फॉलोज व्हाट, द नो फर्स्ट यूज पॉलिसी. तो नो फर्स्ट यूज पॉलिसी जब हम एक्सेप्ट कर चुके हैं, वी आर फॉलोइंग इट, वी शुड नॉट अलाउ दैट टू happen. We have to resume the testing. If the Americans, the Russians and the Chinese start testing, we have to resume the testing because we have the vectors. एक होता है वेपन, न्यूक्लियर वेपन, एक होता है उसका डिलीवरी मैकेनिज्म. तो जो डिलीवरी मैकेनिज्म है जिसे हम वेक्टर कहते हैं, दैट इज देयर. वी हैव ऑल थ्री सर्विसेज, मिराज फॉर एयरफोर्स, Su-30, and then variety of missiles that we have, Prithvi, Agni, Agni P, Agni Prime, varied versions of Prithvi. Then you have Dhanush missiles, and then the variety of nuclear submarine ballistic missiles submarine that we have, they carry K4 and K5 ballistic missiles, Sagarika missiles also. So we have the delivery mechanism. We are testing again new and new technologies here, चाहे वो MIRV हो, maneuverable री-एंट्री व्हीकल हो, या वो मल्टीपल इंडिपेंडेंट री-एंट्री व्हीकल हो अग्नि 5 के अंदर. तो वी हैव बीन टेस्टिंग द डिलीवरी मैकेनिज्म. वी हैव टू टेस्ट द वेपन आल्सो. दैट इज आल्सो वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. सो इंडिया के लिए जो पॉलिसी प्रिस्क्रिप्शन होगा वो क्या होगा, क्या फ्यूचर होगा इसका, that we need to create and sustain a credible nuclear deterrent posture so that we can deter the regional enemies of India, चाहे वो चाइना हो या पाकिस्तान हो, और जो एक्स्ट्रा रीजनल एडवर्सरीज और एनिमीज हैं, चाहे वो टर्की हो या फिर वो अजरबैजान हो या फिर वो कल के दिन अमेरिका हो. So we have to maintain that in mind. Keep working on new delivery vectors, obviously, to increase accuracy of the weapon and survivability of the weapon. De-link, obviously, the western and the northern threats, that is Pakistan and China. China follows no first use policy like us. Pakistanis don't. तो इंडिया की पॉलिसी एक कैसे हो सकती है दोनों एडवर्सरीज को लेके, तो इसे डीलिंग करना बहुत जरूरी है. एंड देन स्ट्रॉन्ग एडवोकेसी फॉर क्रेडिबल एंड इररिवोकेबल ग्लोबल डिसआर्मामेंट, बिकॉज अल्टीमेटली nuclear weapons may look like that they are guaranteeing the world peace, but it would be a very very bad bet on them if we follow this idea or notion कि न्यूक्लियर वेपन्स की वजह से ही वर्ल्ड पीस है, क्योंकि जिस दिन उनका इस्तेमाल होगा मास एक्सटेंशन की पॉसिबिलिटीज रियल है. When people used to talk about a pandemic before 2019 कोविड पैंडेमिक, तो जनरली जो आम जनता है, जो सामान्य लोग हैं, they used to mock कि ये सिर्फ फियर मॉन्गरिंग है, पैंडेमिक वगैरह इतिहास का हिस्सा हो चुके हैं. लेकिन इवेंचुअली इट केम. अभी बात हो रही है इकोनॉमिक डिप्रेशन की, दैट कैन ऑल्सो कम. न्यूक्लियर वेपन्स वॉर कैन कम एज वेल. सो वी हैव टू प्रिपेयर अकॉर्डिंगली. तो ये जो आर्म्स रेस ट्रम्प शुरू करने जा रहे हैं, इसकी शुरुआत तो वो कर देंगे, लेकिन जो रिजल्ट होगा इट विल बी अनसर्टेन. एंड ओनली द स्ट्रॉन्ग विल सर्वाइव and the weak will perish. Let's hope that India will choose the right path and it will be a path of strength. I'll meet you again tomorrow with a new and interesting insight on topic relevant to UPSC Civil Service Examination. If you find this content useful, obviously like, subscribe and share.